Hi everyone. In this video we are just going to make sure that your computer is actually set up, you've installed Java correctly, and that you can use BlueJ. So these steps here will make sure that you know that your computer is set up correctly. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to write a small program called Hello World, which is a time-honored tradition in computer science. It's the first program you always write in any language when you start out. It will just print some text to the screen and we'll make sure that it works right. So go ahead and follow along with me. Assuming that you've installed Java and BlueJ, go ahead and open up BlueJ. I'm on a Mac here. On a PC, you should know how to do it. But the BlueJ window will look relatively the same for everybody. To start, we're going to make a new project. So in the BlueJ menu, go to Project, New Project. I'm going to call my project something like Setup Tests. And when you make a new project in BlueJ, really all you're doing is making a new folder. So I saved this project on the desktop of my computer, and you can see it just made a folder called Setup Tests. And if we look inside it, you can see that there's a couple of things that BlueJ puts in there. We'll talk more about this later. Okay, so let's write some code. To write code in BlueJ, you make a new class, and you have to decide what the name of this class should be. I'm going to call it, I don't know, test. Not feeling very creative. Say OK. And then you'll see that there's a little object here in the programming area. If you double click it, it will open. And BlueJ by default likes to dump some default code in there. It's not really helpful. So I'm going to select it all and delete it, and we're going to write from scratch. I'm also going to here, just for you, I'm going to make my font a little bit bigger so that you can really see what I'm writing. Okay, so we're going to write some code in Java. Now there are a lot of words and phrases here that you will learn how to use, but you don't know them right now, and that's okay. Just follow along with me. I will try to explain a little bit here and there. So the first line of code we're going to write is public class test, and then an open curly brace. That line indicates that we're going to make essentially a program file called test. The next line is a line that's long, but you'll get used to it. The code is public static void main, capital S on string, bracket, bracket, open bracket, close bracket, args, close paren, open curly brace. This line here, public static void main, is the first line that gets executed in any Java program. I'll explain what all of these different terms mean during class, but we call this the main method of the program. And every Java program in the world, when you fire it up and run it, it attempts to run the main method. It's the starting point for every piece of Java code. Okay, so if you haven't gleaned this already, these curly braces denote blocks of code. And so if later on down in the program here I do a closing curly brace, and then later on still another closing curly brace, you can see that this closing curly brace, when I put my cursor next to it, it highlights the one before it. So what we're doing is inside these opening and closing curly braces will be the code that belongs to the main method, we say. All right? And similarly, this closing curly brace defines what goes inside the class test. So what we have here is a method called main, which will encapsulate some code, and it is inside a class called test. And you can see in BlueJ they have these colored blocks that sort of help you figure out which block you're currently writing in. Alright, so the code we're going to write is very simple. It's one line. It is capital S, system.out.println. Hello world. So as I mentioned, the Hello World program, as it's called, is a time-honored tradition in programming. Whenever you start out in a new language, you write, they call it the Hello World program. And all it's going to do when we run it is it's going to print out the phrase Hello World. We're introducing ourselves to the world. Okay, once you've written that line of code, you hit this button called compile. And when you compile code, that takes this sort of these English-like words and compiles it into machine code that the computer can actually run. So we hit compile, and down at the bottom it'll say class compiled, no syntax errors. Now if you mistyped something, you will get an error, and it should highlight the line or the area where it went wrong. For example, if I said public void static and I forgot the I and I hit compile, it will say there's something wrong with this line. And what you should do is look very closely at what I wrote and compare it to what you have and get it correct. All right. So once you have it compiled, you can close the window here and back out in the programming area. In order to run this code, what we do is you right click, or on a Mac you hit Control plus click, and that should bring up this little menu, and you choose main. We want to run the main method on this program. So when I run it, it will bring up this little window, and I say OK, and it'll run it, and it'll bring up a little terminal window and say that prints out what we wanted, hello world. Now of course you want to go back in and get it to say something else. Hello everybody, with multiple exclamation points. Compile, close, come back out, and rerun it, and you'll see that it says hello everybody. In the terminal window here, every time we run the program, it's going to accumulate everything we've written. With the terminal window selected, if you hit options and say clear screen at method call, then it will clear out the terminal window every time you rerun the program. So now if I run it again, it'll just say what I wrote. All right. I'm going to expand on this Hello World program in another video, but if you got this to work and it compiled and it ran and it said Hello World, then your computer is set up to write Java programs.